Okie dokie. Awesome. Thanks everybody for being here. We are going, basically the way this works is the people that are here in the room, you guys get priority. You're the ones that I'm going to answer first. The folks that are in any of the other social media, because this goes across all my platforms, I will get to your questions as well. But after I've answered people who show up in the actual class. So yeah, that's what's going to happen. So what I want to do is open it up to you all for questions. So people in here, do you have any specific questions to start off with, things that you're wondering about? Anything at all, you can just raise your hand and I can call on you. Or you can just unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
I'm in your foundations class, and so I'm really new to all of this, and I do have some questions. I've been doing Sitting in the Power for the last couple of weeks, and I've been trying to do it as many days. I mean, I would say most days I do it. I might skip one or two, but I've had some experiences after starting to do these that I wasn't sure. Like, I'm kind of like sitting out here on my own wondering, does this make sense? And what is this about? So I'll just explain to you like some things that have happened.
Okay.
I had the first incident was like a week ago, and it was as I was waking up in the morning. So like that in between state of waking up, and I was waking up and I felt a sort of like a presence, but it wasn't like when I opened my eyes, I didn't really see anything. I just felt like an energy, and it was not negative, scary. It was just like maybe somebody was watching me. And I thought, well, wow, that is really interesting. But it was a little unnerving. And I think I talked to you prior. I had a whole like visual thing months ago, and I have set my boundaries. I don't want that happening. So I kind of just told Spirit, I probably wouldn't prefer to have like somebody watching me, even though I couldn't see anything. I just felt it. So that was the first thing that happened after Sitting in the Power. And then I had another thing happen a few days after that, where when I woke up again, I heard a person's voice inside my head, and I knew who the person was. It was somebody who I had canceled an appointment with. And this person said to me, I didn't appreciate you canceling that appointment. And I knew immediately who it was. And that was not the interaction that went on when I let the person know I had to cancel. Does that make sense? Like, she was like, oh, yes, I understand. But then when I heard the voice, I was told she didn't appreciate it. And it was like her voice. Anyway. And come to find out, I think that's probably true, because she never contacted me again. But that wasn't startling at all. In fact, I told Spirit, you can do that as long as it's soft and safe, And then I also had an incident where last week I was at a play, and there was a person that sat down like a seat away from me, and I could definitely feel that energy. And all I could get was, it was a heavy energy. And I've had that happen to me in my life before, where I'd walk in a room and I get this woof of energy, but it hasn't happened for a long time. So I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts are on these things happening. I relate them to Sitting in the Power, but I'm just curious what you think.
Yeah, you're just increasing your sensitivity. I mean, the waking up and feeling a sense of someone watching you or a presence or something like that, that could be awareness, right? It could be spiritual awareness. It could also just be not quite sleep paralysis, but in sleep paralysis, it's very common to feel like there's a presence there with you. And I'm not saying it was sleep paralysis, but I'm just using that as an example, that in that half awake, half asleep state, it is possible to have a sense that someone is there, even though it may not be a presence. So you feeling like someone was watching you, I don't necessarily think it necessarily is a presence, but there's nothing wrong with someone watching you because It could be a loved one. It could be, I mean, if you had no awareness of who it was, it could be something good and positive and loving and caring for you. And it's just that unfamiliarity or unknown that creates like uncertainty.
Is this
unease.
normal? Do this happen to people?
Spirits are always with you, regularly,
Right.
constantly. It's our awareness of them that comes and goes. So they're always there. So if you're just happen to be in a half awake, half asleep state, and you start experiencing presence, it's just because you're becoming aware of them. They're most likely there already. You just can't tell. And so if you think about it in those terms, there's spirits around you constantly, all the time. Someone's always with you. And that's why you'll hear often a message from spirits, I'm always with you. Yeah, they probably are. They're probably constantly with you. So I think that in some ways can be a little bit of a reassuring thing, is that it's likely someone that loves you and knows you and is looking out for you. So that's one thing. Second thing, if you don't want to know that that's happening, great. Just tell them that, and that sounds like what you did. So that's normal. As far as like sensing the person's energy when they sat down, that is possible given that you are becoming more sensitive. You are starting to feel more and sense more. And so what you want to do is learn, when do I want to feel it and when I don't. So just make sure that if you're ever feeling things when you don't want to be feeling it, you just either ignore it, which is usually the best course of action, or B, tell the spirit, hey, can you help me shut down here? Or you can just try to be really present with what you're doing. Usually we start to feel and sense spirit when we're sort of zoning out, when we're not really focused on any one thing. And that's when we start to feel like awareness of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And then hearing someone's voice.
Hearing someone's voice can be some kind of, I mean, if it's not our own thoughts and that sort of thing, it can be that you're just picking up psychically on the information of what's happening. But it can just happen. I mean, it's just as you become more sensitive, you can have more awareness of what I would call, because we're all connected to one another through energy. And so our consciousness, I can't tell you how often, this just happened with my partner the other day, where he was saying something in his mind, and I just answered the question of what he was saying in his mind before he even said it. Why? Because there's a connection there of some sort. The same thing happens with other friends and experiences where I am thinking about them just a second before they call or they text me or whatever. It's a very common occurrence. So I just think that that's just our awareness being open and kind of attuned to the energy and the information that's coming to us all the time through this sort of unseen space. Sorry, the trash person is outside. I don't know if you guys can hear all that banging and stuff. Okay. But yeah, that's what I would say.
So is it like normal? Like from sitting in the power? Is that why this is happening, do you think?
It's not necessarily from sitting in the power. It's that you are becoming more sensitive as a byproduct of sitting in the power.
Right.
So,
I guess that's what I meant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've heard of this. This does happen to people.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
100%. For sure.
All right. That's good to
totally
know.
normal.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Heather, did you have a question?
Sure. I have a question about, so how do I say this? In the history of my intuitive development and such, I have noticed that the things I pick up on people tend to be areas of their lives that I'm most invested in my life. For example, whenever I do an intuitive reading with someone, something about their career or their life purpose or their spiritual path tends to be the first thing that comes up, whereas areas of my life that are dormant or repressed or blocked are not things that I read very well at all. And I'm curious, I'm aware of this, and I know intention probably could help, but I'm curious and I know this probably falls under one of the three versions of tension in terms of like our own biases toward what's important. I'm just wondering what you would recommend going to therapy for the areas of my life that are blocked, which I'm not against doing in terms of being a more open channel. I feel like, if this is being broadcast on social media, I'm a little feel vulnerable to actually talk about this, but it's like, like relationship issues. I cannot read people's relationship issues at all, and that's super important. And so I'm like, what's a good way to start opening up where I can actually do that, regardless of what my own feelings and my own status is about other people's areas of their life that I might not be interested in my own life.
Yeah. So I guess where I want to kind of get a little bit more information is, does that ever vary for you? Does it ever vary where sometimes maybe relationships works really well and then sometimes it doesn't when things are going worse? Or is it kind of across the board, just this is an area I don't really go?
It's kind of just a block.
Okay.
Like, I don't have any negative feelings about it. It's just a block. I did a practice reading not long ago with one of the guys from our class, and I did feel my attention drawn to his relationship, and I did talk about that a little bit. So that may just be that the opening up and stuff. But historically, over the years, I'm like, I don't know. You might be married. You might be single. I have no idea. Cannot tell.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I don't want to assume initially that it's just because you have a disinterest to talk about that means that this is why this is happening. However, that can be a thing. So like, for example, within mediumship, because I have a little bit of a more emotionally challenging time with children being in spirit, I tend to not be as clued in to kids as first. Like, they're not the first thing to come in for me. And so that's why, like, it can be what you're describing. So, but I also don't want to assume that it's just that. So, because in your development, how long have you been developing your awareness?
Intuition for about 2-3 years now.
Great.
I was dormant, well, like 3 years. I was dormant for like a year before I joined your latest class.
Okay, great. So the reason that I'm asking is because I there's a little part of me that feels like it may not be from that specifically. Let me ask you, do you feel any pressure to get to those kinds of information, or do they feel too personal to talk about by any means?
They literally just don't even occur to me. So whenever I'm drawn to someone, it's typically going to be something, it can be any other area of their life will come to me first. And it's like that, because that just doesn't even occur to me until it's pointed out. And I think you had mentioned in one of our classes that that's an area of people's lives that that a lot of people want information on. I'm like, it's going to be a problem in my ability to serve them.
Yeah, but see, I don't think it has to be. I think we decide what's a problem and we decide what's not a problem. And if we find a pattern, there are ways that we can try to kind of work against that. And I think it's essentially what your question is. So, what are the areas? Relationships. Anything else?
Relationships.
Okay, just that. Okay. Romantic ones?
Relationships,
okay.
Friendships, family things. I mean, I think relationships in general, I would say, don't come up a lot. So conflict with your sister or, falling out with your friend, those don't necessarily come up. But then especially like marital status, do they have children, all that doesn't register very easily for me.
Okay. So with that in mind, one thing good, because you're in the psychism course, right? So what the good thing is we are going to go over those specific areas, so you'll get a chance to focus on that specifically, which should be helpful. Because the thing is I want to delete from your brain that you can't get it or that it's blocked for you. Let's just like decide that that's just no longer true. That maybe was true. It's not true anymore, because what we believe will be impacting what we perceive as well. And I don't want you to have that in your mind. So just start working on that, being like, I actually can get anything. All of this is possible. I am very flexible. All things are available to me. I want you to just start to create that in your subconscious, because I don't want you to be feeling that, because that feeling creates tension, and then tension blocks the thing from coming. The other thing I would say is perhaps the way in which you're trying to perceive it is related to maybe the way that you perceive other kinds of information. So like all that would need to happen is like our flashlight just needs to be pointed on that direction. So sometimes in our awareness, when we're reading people, it's very easy to focus on the things that we feel either A, comfortable with, or B, are just very obvious things to us. So I often joke when I hear people say like, oh, I can make people cry. I always go straight to their, biggest challenge and hardest thing that they've experienced. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's the easy part. Like, that's the easiest thing. Going to the most obvious thing, which is the pain that they experience in their life and the trauma, that is very apparent in people's energy. It's the big, giant, flashing light. Of course, that's the easiest thing. So I always laugh when people are like really proud of themselves. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And what we can do is learn how to take that flashlight and go, cool, that's there. What else is here? Because if we just feel like really comfortable with going with that big, obvious thing that's really clear, then we never really develop our ability to go for the subtle or more nuanced sort of thing. So what I then encourage people to do is to take their awareness of ignore the big glaring obvious thing and notice the subtlety of what else is in the energy, what else is happening there. So as it relates to relationships, what we'll end up doing is, as we work a little bit more with timelines, we're going to go to specifically the relationship timeline. Now, if that is the topic that we're looking at, we are going to feel something to do with relationships. That is where we're going. That's where our flashlight is pointed. And therefore, whatever we experience now is going to be related to relationships. So I think through doing that specifically, that's going to really start to strengthen that ability to perceive it in general. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Other follow-up questions, thoughts, feelings, opinions?
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I do think that part of development is expanding what's possible. So part of our development is believing that we are capable of getting these other things, and then they start coming more normally. So for example, I would see one of my teachers, she would get street addresses. And so one day in class, she was like, okay, guess what we're getting today? We're getting street addresses. And I was like, what? How am I going to get the street address of someone? And she's like, you're just going to ask the spirit to bring it to you. And I'm like, okay. So whenever it was ready, and what did I do in that reading? I got a street address. After that point, I could get street addresses and things like that. So it's something that can come, but we sometimes have this view of like, I can't get that. That's too amazing. Like, I can't do that. Same thing with when I was doing like missing persons things. I was like, I didn't know I could do anything with missing persons. I thought it was so incredible. I even went so as far as like booked a reading with a lady I saw on a TV show who did incredible on the TV show. Her actual reading was awful, but the experience of watching that opened my mind to, well, maybe I can get that. And then one day my friend was like, hey, I want to tell you about this missing persons thing. And I was like, say no more. I'm going to tell you about this missing person. And I just went, whoop, and was able to get all kinds of details so specific to the point of being able to pull up a map, putting my finger somewhere in the world, and landing on the exact river where the body was found. That's how specific it got. And the reason it could do that was because I just trusted the possibility that this could work. I didn't come at it with, I need to get something, I need to make something happen. I can just surrender and just boop, like do this thing and let myself be led and inspired. And that's what we're trying to teach all of you, is how do you let go of the attachment to the outcome? How do you surrender and allow yourself to be inspired in the moment? And if you are truly surrendering, you're not controlling the experience in any way, the spirit, and by spirit I mean your guides too, for psychism, point you in the right direction. They bring to you what you need, even if it doesn't make sense to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Celine, I know you're listening in the background and in the darkness. I don't know if you did have a question or something that you wanted to ask.
I'm sorry.
You're okay.
I haven't taken a class or anything. I looked online and saw that the intro course had just started, so I guess it'll be a bit. So that's why I just wanted to pop on and kind of see the vibes and see, what it was about and stuff like that. So I'm more just kind of listening to see the possibilities, I guess.
Amazing. Do you have any questions about your development or how it works or why it works? Or is there anything that's kind of coming up for you as you're listening right now? If not, no worries, but I'm just curious.
Well, I'm very new, so my questions are probably juvenile, but
it's okay. We'll take them.
So like the intro classes, is that good for somebody that's just looking to connect like their own, like develop their own intuition, develop their own connection to spirit and their past loved ones?
100%. So our Foundations 1 series, Foundations 1, 2, 3, that is designed for people with no experience at all and or people who have some experience but feel like they're missing some things and they want to deepen and strengthen that. So whether you're looking at the psychic development or the Foundations 1 series, 1, 2, 3 series, both of those are going to be perfect for people who don't have any previous experience in that. You can also take this course, because this is a question I get a lot. You can also take the course even if you feel like you've never had a spiritual experience ever in your whole life, and also if you're just wanting to do it for yourself and not to necessarily become a medium. Because I think sometimes people think, oh, I don't want to become a medium, but I want to learn how to connect so I can connect with my own people. And that is exactly what that can be used for as well. So it's never a thing of like, because you take this, you have to become. No, it's you're developing a skill set that's going to be useful to you in your life in general and help to reveal and help you understand how to work with your own energy, your own power, and how we connect to the spirit world and intuition.
Okay, amazing. Well, I'll look out for when the next class opens. Thank you.
Yeah, that Foundation series should open again with Foundations 1 in January. So that's the next time that will be there.
Okay, great.
Yeah. There's other things that you can take in the meantime. There's my book, Spirit Speaks, which I think is a great resource for getting your feet wet and started, because it's kind of taking you through Foundations 1 to some degree and then beyond that. So it's called Spirit Speaks. You can get it on Amazon. And then the other thing is that we have weekly development circles that you can also come to as well. So yeah, there's different ways that you can do that in the meantime if you want to. Alternatively too, I do offer mentoring, which you can find more information about that at mediummichaelmayo.com, where let's say there are two people who want to start the Foundation series, but they miss that deadline for the group. They can always do it in a mentoring fashion. And I just take you through the process of Foundations 1 through 3, but just with either you or a small group of people.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Anna says, I took all 3 foundational courses and it helped me to connect with my husband and other people. Awesome. I'm happy to hear that, Anna. Just checking here. I'm here to say hello and was curious on the Q and A. Well, you are in the Q and A, so that is perfect. You're exactly where you're supposed to be then, if you're curious about that. And those are the other points and questions. I'm just checking to see if I missed any while. Can you learn? No, that's nothing. Nope, nothing else here. So other questions from Heather or Kathy at all?
I think I do have another question in relation to what I was telling you. Is this something that will fade away? Is this just a beginning thing that's going on with me?
Yeah, I think that as time goes on, it's just, I mean, I guess when you're saying fade away, are you referring to like which part? Like,
well, I guess it's kind of just these incidences where like I'm waking up and I feel like someone's staring at me, or and I don't know if like what I heard is like considered clairaudience or telepathic clairaudience. I don't know what that was.
Yeah. I think right now the best thing you can do is take note of your experiences and try not to understand them. And the only reason that I say that is because we won't necessarily have answers for every single thing that you experience during the development period. But then things will start to even out and be much more clear and clearly understood as time goes on. And then also, the more you have an understanding of how your whole process works and all of that sort of thing, the more consistently it works that way. And then you aren't going to have random things happening because you'll know how to be on and you'll know how to be off. You'll also know how to, because you're just very early in the foundational process.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that during this time, you're just sort of opening up, you're just sort of getting used to it. And so sometimes we're open when we don't necessarily want to be, or receiving things maybe we don't necessarily want to receive at that moment. It's learning, how do I go back to like normal awareness? Because right now we're trying to kind of open our awareness so we can become more sensitive. So that's great. And so we might start having these kind of random experiences that occur, but over time we will get a good sense of on, off, and even if I am on in an appropriate time when I don't want that to happen, I know how to close that down or pay attention to like normal life.
Okay. And I guess you just go through, as we're going through the course, you teach us how to do that. It sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, the short answer is bring your attention back to here and now. That is the short answer. Yeah. So that'll help with that. I don't think that them showing up during sleep and all that sort of thing really is going to be a common occurrence. That happened to me at the very, very early days, like within like the first like month or so of like discovering that I had that awareness, and and then that was that, and then it kind of just went away. So
so you had that happen to you early.
Yeah, well, mine wasn't necessarily a sense of a presence. It was voices saying my name very loudly.
Yes.
And so I was like screaming my name, like Micah, but like different voices, and I'm just like, okay, cool, that's weird, but all right. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. I'm not the only one. All right.
No, you're definitely not the only one. People have those kinds of things all the time. So.
Okay, great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Other questions? Other thoughts? And also, my people in the lives, you're allowed to also ask questions. So please feel free. Ask any questions about your mediumship development, psychic development, spiritual development, literally pretty much anything. I'm not doing any kind of predictive readings or mediumship readings right now, but you are able to ask anything that you want. Just checking the other socials. Perfect. Jess said, no questions from me, just lurking. Good to see your face. I like lurkers. Please lurk. One thing that I think is helpful for most mediums to know is really your development and psychic awareness. Your development really is less about performance and you getting information and making it happen, and more so learning, how do I get out of the way so that I can become aware of these other things. I often like to say to people, like, you already have all the things that you need to be a medium. It's already there. The things that keep us from that awareness are our thinking mind and the part of us that wants to try to perform or make it make sense and all of that sort of thing. You're already connected to the spirit. You already are a spiritual being. It's just that this thinking mind acts as a condenser of that awareness. So when we can sort of take that thinking mind and set it aside and enter into that altered state of awareness, we have much more ease with being able to access more of what we already are. And so I think looking at it that way, rather than feeling like it's me that has to reach into the ether and pull information out, I think that makes it a lot easier. It's instead me having to let go of control. And as I let go of control, then as a byproduct of that surrender, I experience the other world, which I think is helpful. The Opti Mystique approach. And so just saying hi, and you're awesome. Mediumship is awesome. Thanks. Yeah, mediumship is awesome. I love it. Is there a new expansions opening in January? It isn't listed on your website yet. So expansions first starts in August, and then the first weekend in August, and then expansions, that's expansions 2, and then expansions 1 starts again in January, but we don't actually open that up for registration until we get closer to it. So right now we're still doing expansions 2. Hey, Michael, just got on TikTok to see you. Thanks, Shannon. Get out of the way. So easy, so hard. Yeah, getting out of the way is all the development. It's the entirety of the development process. Thoughts on Arthur Findlay College? Have you been before? Yes, I have been to Arthur Findlay College many times, probably 5 times, I think. And yeah, I have mixed thoughts. I think before there was this big exodus of a bunch of different teachers, and unfortunately, it was basically all the really amazing teachers that all left. So now it's a shadow of what it once was, in my opinion. And honestly, there were only a handful of teachers there that I would have ever recommended anyway, because a lot of the instructors and people got through the program by paying basically to become a tutor. So you have to do a bunch of steps and all these sorts of things. And that doesn't mean that always the best or most qualified people are the ones that are getting through that process more, or maybe not even interested to get through that process. And so, I'm not going to say that there aren't good teachers there, but Arthur Findlay College has also had a tendency to over-teach their students and really put these really big, you can do this, you can't do this, you can do this, you can't do this, to the detriment of the students' mediumship, in my opinion. So I don't necessarily recommend anyone there now at all. The only person that still is there, I don't know if she's still going to keep teaching there, but is Eileen Davies, who happened to be one of the teachers who stayed despite kind of the political issues that were happening there. That's the only person I would recommend. I wouldn't really recommend anyone else there, to be honest. But I do love the building. I do love the grounds. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of amazing mediumship that has happened there. And so it has a special place in my heart. It's just unfortunate that the politics have been crazy there. Is there such thing as psychics or mediums doing a home mold inspections? Testing is unreliable. Not that I would recommend anyway. So maybe, but I would rather try to do really, 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 really thorough testing for things like mold and that sort of thing, rather than having a medium or a psychic tell you that. But one thing I will say is, if you do suspect mold and those sorts of things, definitely get that tested, because that can turn real bad real quick. And also, there's things you can do in the meantime, even if you suspect it and you're not getting it tested, like ventilation and other sort of filters and things like that can help to support that during that time. This is coming from a person who experienced mold issues in the past, so that's why I'm like, you need to get that looked at and figure that out. But yeah, if you're going to go to Arthur Findlay College, definitely go on Eileen Davies Week. Was just listening to your spirit guide meditation on an airplane, and your live popped up. No questions, but just enjoying Foundations 1. Oh, welcome. I'm so glad that you are enjoying that. Is it possible to be psychically connected with someone and be feeling their feelings when you're not physically with them? Hopefully that's an appropriate question here. Yes, it is. And it is possible. Absolutely, 100%. And there's all kinds of information that we can get between people when you're not with them. I mean, doing psychic readings when I'm far away from people, I do them all the time. I'm picking up on their emotions and feelings and all kinds of things. And so it's actually quite natural for us to feel connected. I mean, how many stories have you ever heard of people like, you felt a crazy feeling and then you knew someone was in trouble, so you called them, or you felt like something was up with someone, and so you just gave them a call, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you just called me. I'm like crying right now. All of those things are very, very real and very, very, connected. Hi, Michael. I've read tarot cards and I've been hesitant to jump into mediumship until I fully developed psychically. Curious what you would recommend my next step to be. So I personally don't believe you need to be fully developed psychically to jump into mediumship. In fact, I actually recommend personally developing mediumship before you develop psychism, only because mediumship is very direct. It's very black or white, yes or no. Like you either do have an uncle in the spirit or you don't have an uncle in the spirit. He either was a mechanic or he was not a mechanic. It just is. These are just facts and figures. And the skills that you cultivate to be able to access that information in mediumship will really easily transition into awareness. Very, very, very easily. And you have to be accurate to do this. Now, what happens sometimes with psychism is that it's a little bit more loose. There's a little bit more gray area with that, where it's all about inspiration and feeling. And while you can get very specific, very accurate, and very direct, clear information that is either correct or not, the process of it can be a little bit more symbolic. The process of it can feel a little less, it is this or it isn't this. The other nice thing about developing mediumship first is that you develop your ability to sense and perceive spirit, and as like the sort of foundational process. And what's easy to do is, once you have spirit, all you have to do is you know how to read spirit in this direction. So like you're feeling the presence of the unseen world. And then all you have to do is just adjust your attention to a living person. And now that's a very easy switch to psychism, right? Whereas with developing psychism first, sometimes it can be tricky for a psychic to not accidentally just slip back into their psychic awareness when they're trying to get information from a spirit. So they have to really work to cultivate and kind of make sure their psychism doesn't slip into their medium. And they have to cultivate that sense of awareness of presence. So for me personally, I actually think it's an easier transition going from mediumship to psychic. Now, I've heard other mediumship teachers in the past say things like, well, how can you read other people if you can't read yourself or your own energy and that sort of thing? But I actually don't really agree with that. I think that's just a easy thing to say. I'm just like, I don't think it makes any difference. I think actually it works easier the other way, because pretty much all my students who I develop just as mediums and then they come over to psychism, it's a super easy switch for them, like really, really easy for them. So again, I don't think there is one way that's right or wrong. I've just happened to notice that the transition is super easy. Easier that direction, I would say. So yeah, get into mediumship. Where is Megan Elisa? Megan Elisa is at home. Megan Elisa is at home. She's chilling. She's recovering from her surgery, and she's doing great and looking great, feeling great. And I'm sure she'll start coming on and doing things more. But she's already teaching with me back at Oakbridge and everything. So that is all good. Other questions before we wrap it up here today? Anyone in my...
Another one?
Yeah.
I could ask. So I've also been studying mediumship for about a year, and I have a good sense of spirit guide energy and spirit guide communication, and then also sensing a spirit, communicating with the spirit. But in a reading, I have heard others, you and other mediums that I've learned from, talk about getting help from their guides if ever they are confused or need some clarification. So there's like this interchange, not only with the spirit, but also the spirit guide. And I have not yet been able to do both of those in one reading, like shift between communicating with the spirit guide and also the spirit. It's more so if I do ask the spirit guide a question, I don't really get an answer. What do you suggest in terms of, because I can differentiate them individual energies, but when I'm in the middle of doing a reading, like I don't really feel the spirit guide so much as just the spirit.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know that you need to necessarily have like, I'm talking to my guide now moment and like really feel that. It's more this sort of subtle, maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a suggestion of that it's coming from my guide, less like I'm actively like, sit and have a conversation with me like you would, and not that they can't, absolutely they can, like you can feel your spirit guides as clearly as you feel maybe a spirit communicator of a loved one. But like if I'm ever doing a reading, I'm never stopping my connection with my like loved one to go, let me get this information from my guide necessarily. So
yeah, like holding the two at the same time is what I'm kind of talking about.
And I mean, in theory you could. I mean, there's definitely been times where I can feel someone's guide and I can feel someone's loved one in spirit. I generally am not aware of my guides consciously when I'm doing any kind of reading, really. Unless I'm doing something like trance or something like that, that's when I'm really consciously aware of them. But otherwise, they're just kind of in the background. They're just there doing their thing, and I just have an awareness that they're directing me or they're pointing me in a direction. And I'm just trusting that whatever they're pointing me to is either coming or inspired by them, because they want me to notice that, they want me to pay attention to that. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about like, oh, here's the guide and here's the loved one. But you could do, I mean, if you ever wanted to play with that, you could just be like, hey, I'd love to feel a guide and I'd love to feel a spirit communicator. Talk about the guide, talk about the spirit communicator. It's kind of a similar, experience.
Yeah, it's only come up when I've needed help, and then I've like asked, okay, spirit guide, help me out with this. And it's like, okay, I'm not sensing that. Let me just go back over, and there's probably tension there.
I'm curious,
that I need to release.
What would what would the guide help you with that wouldn't come from the spirit? I'm curious.
It's just something that I've been taught where it's like, if you need help during a reading, to ask your spirit guides for help. And typically that I haven't been able to have that kind of connection where, oh, okay, I'm having trouble right here. Typically what I have to do is just be like, okay, I'm creating tension in myself. My guide's not gonna be able to fix my tension for me. I got to fix my tension, So that's kind of what it ends up being.
I think the most that you would ever ask your guide in like a reading of some sort is probably just, can you help me relax? Can you help me get out of the way?
Yeah.
Can you help me surrender? Because when you let go and you surrender and you relax, it just happens, right? So it's not that I need my guide to help me get any information. I'm just, hey, can you help me get out of the way? Because that's ultimately your job as the medium, is let me get the hell out of the way so that it can just kind of happen to me. And that's what we're hoping for. So I wouldn't necessarily say, if you're having trouble in a reading, to like go, hey, guide, can you help me? Unless it's something as simple as, like, can you just help me relax? Can you just help me reset in some way? Or I'm handing this over to you now in some way. Like that sense of I'm letting go of control. Because if you're saying I need help, there's a sense of I'm controlling this. There's something not going the way I want it to go, and therefore I need help with this. And so I don't even think that should be even a thought in our mind. It should be instead, if there's any part of me that's wanting something, I need to actually let go of that, because then once I let go, the spirit fills in the space. So it's like, as I let go of my will and my control and my desire, the spirit goes, oh, thank you, I can come in now, right? And then it's clearer, it flows. But it's when I'm trying to direct, that's when I would struggle. Make sense?
Great. Yes, thank you.
I think it's also why it's so important for people to learn before they start getting posed with questions, or get this kind of information, get this kind of information. Before any of that happens, one should really cultivate the ability to stay neutral regardless of what else is going on. So it's a very common thing where students will, in the very first class, will be like, okay, just open up and telling me everything you're getting. And then, okay, do you get a passing condition? Do you get a this thing? And all that's going to happen is that brain of that medium is going to just come in there and be like, let me help, let me help, let me help. And sure, maybe they might be right the first few times, but over time that gets harder and harder and harder and harder. And so they have to actually learn first, how do I let go of control and be comfortable with nothing? Learn to just be neutral. And then the spirit can fill it in, so that later on down the road, I can say, I had a person once ask me in a reading, I had a dream of my loved one that felt like a visitation. Tell me what the dream was. And I was like, your brain immediately goes, well, I don't know how I'm going to get that. But if you have been taught how to surrender, how to let go, how to not try, how to be okay with nothing coming, when all of those things are in place, it's actually quite easy to just go, okay, I'm just going to soften. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get anything, but I'm going to just see what happens. I soften, I relax. And then as it happens, little bits of information start to come in, and then more, and then more, and then more, and then more. And then now you just told them the thing that they were wanting to know about. So it's a skill that we want to learn. So I say all of that just in regards to, there's not really a place where I feel like we should necessarily say, hey, guide, help me with this reading. That's already the default. They're doing it already. They're helping already. All I have to do is keep my awareness open and stay softened and relaxed, and then they can just bring the information. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
So you're probably already doing it right anyway, Heather.
Well, I mean, I tell you, I've been learning mediumship from other people before I discovered Oakbridge, and I've been applying what I've learned from your book in this other class, and it's been phenomenal. So it's been great.
Awesome, Heather. I love that. That's really exciting. I'm glad to know that my book's helping. That makes me happy.
Honestly, no, I'm not blowing smoke here. I've read dozens of mediumship books, and it's been probably the best one on mechanics and how to and just basic, like, been very effective. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet. That means a lot because I know you're not just whistling Dixie over here. I genuinely appreciate that because that was the goal. It was to basically, what can I hand someone that like would help them know what they need to know to make this work? And I think in a lot of ways, I wanted it to fill in the blanks, maybe if they were struggling or the things that were missing. So yeah, thank you. On that note, hello, Darren. Hello, Nat. Hello, Janelle. We are going to leave it here, I think, for the rest of the day. So thank you so much for being here, Heather and Kathy and Celine. Thank you for popping in. I hope you got something out of today. So yeah.
Yes, thanks for hosting.
Yeah, of course. And so I'm always here
Thank you so much.
at 2:00 Pacific on Mondays. So yeah, I'm here for any questions you have. Thanks, Celine. Thanks for being here. Kathy, thank you. Thank you, everybody on all the other platforms, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Hot the boosh. You want some lunchies? Yeah. Dad. Hey, Nat, I've been using all the gift cards that you've got me recently. So thank you for that. I happened to need to be at Starbucks. I had a need to be at Starbucks. And so I was able to use them. So thank you. Finally, I ended up using them. So thank you.